All right. So Kwekwe, everyone. Bonjour. Hello. My name is Éliane. My pronouns are she, her. I am a settler, originally from the unceded, unsurrendered land of the Anishinaabe Algonquin people in the Ottawa-Gatineau area, and I have been working and living in Epekwitk since 2023. Today, we're going to talk about our Indigenous Arts Grants and Indigenous Art Bank programs. I am joined by my colleague Shannon, who will be speaking in English. I will do French, so please bear with us. And we have our friend and colleague, Patricia Bourque, who is with us as well. From the community. Thank you for joining us, Patricia. And just before we get into things, some housekeeping notes. We will be recording the session today, just for those who are unable to join us. So we'll make it available online afterwards. And so we will be taking questions. We have a Q&A period at the end, so we'll take questions then, and we will stop the recording at that point. And so feel free to come on camera if you'd like. We'll open your mics if you want to speak. Yeah, and if you have any questions throughout, you can also pop them in the chat. You should have access to the chat function, and feel free to write some questions or comments there. And we'll also be adding some information throughout the presentation. So without further ado, I will pass it on to Shannon.
Hey everybody, I am Shannon Pratt. My pronouns are she, her. I am the Creative Industries Development Officer here at Innovation PEI, working with Éliane and Patricia. I am born and raised here on Epekwitk. I am also a settler, and very excited to be with you guys today. I will also say, again, if anybody wants to turn on your cameras, please feel free to do so. I personally would love to see your faces, because it always feels weird to me to not be able to see who I am speaking with, but I also fully understand that not everybody wants, yay! Not everybody wants to turn their cameras on, and I get that. Whatever you're most comfortable with, no pressure. So we are going to really quickly go over our two programs today. We have the Indigenous Arts Grants and the Indigenous Art Bank Acquisition Program. And like Éliane said, at the end, we will go over some questions, and hopefully we will have answers for any of your questions that you have. And if at any point anything comes up, put it in the chat. And yeah, here we go.
All right, can you folks see the presentation on your screen now?
Yes, we can. We can get to the second slide.
Okay, so for anybody who isn't aware, these programs were established in 2021, and they were established to celebrate, highlight, and support and encourage the artistic accomplishments. I'm not speaking very well today, of the Mi'kmaq people of Epekwitk. The PI Culture Action Plan aspires for all islanders to have opportunities to engage with the art forms that derive from Indigenous languages, worldviews, practices, traditions, and protocols. And I will say the process of coming up with these two programs was very extensive. There were a lot of conversations, and there was a lot of thought and heart that went into it. It wasn't just a really quick and simple process.
Donc, les deux programmes dont on parle aujourd'hui ont été créés en 2021 pour vraiment célébrer, soutenir, encourager les réalisations artistiques du peuple Mi'kmaq, des artistes, des artisans Mi'kmaq d'Epekwitk, de l'île du Prince-Édouard. Donc, dans notre travail, nous, on veut que tous les insulaires aient des occasions d'interagir, de s'engager avec différentes formes artistiques des peuples autochtones. Puis on fait ça dans un esprit de réconciliation aussi. Et donc, c'est très important pour nous d'avoir ce programme-là pour pouvoir soutenir la création et la présentation du travail des artistes et artisans autochtones. Et comme Shannon l'a mentionné, c'est un processus qui a été fait en collaboration avec la communauté. Donc, il y a eu beaucoup de consultations, de focus groups pour créer ces deux programmes-là. Alors, voilà, c'est ça le résumé.
So this program, the Indigenous Arts Grants, is for PEI-based Indigenous artists or groups, including ad hoc groups. The priority of this program is to support Mi'kmaq applicants, but it is open to all Indigenous peoples who are living in PEI, on PEI. Is it in or on? I always get it wrong. It is important to be recognized as an artist in the community because the peer assessment committees consider community connections when they are reviewing the applications. So to be clear, like an individual, you're one person. An ad hoc group is basically like if two or more people are working together in a collaborative sort of way. So like if Patricia and like Noella were going to work together on a project, it's a one-time project. You could be considered like an ad hoc group. You could apply together as that group. You're coming together solely for the purpose of this application. That would be a thing. But you could also, if you were a more formal group, like say you are a musical band, like if you were a drumming group, or if you were, I don't know, if you were just a group of humans who regularly work together and are recognized as a group, you would be a group.
Donc, pour l'admissibilité du programme, c'est un programme qui est réservé aux artistes autochtones qui sont basés ici à l'île du Prince-Édouard. Donc, ça peut être soit des individus ou des groupes et on donne la priorité aux demandeurs Mi'kmaq de la communauté, mais le programme est ouvert à toutes les personnes autochtones. C'est important d'être reconnu comme artiste dans la communauté autochtone parce que ça, c'est quelque chose que le comité d'évaluation par les pairs regarde de près. Donc, ils veulent connaître vos relations communautaires. Donc, comme je l'ai mentionné, ça peut être un individu, vous pouvez être une seule personne qui présente une demande ou ça peut être un groupe ad hoc. Puis un groupe ad hoc, dans le fond, c'est un collectif, un groupe informel de personnes qui travaillent ensemble sur un projet en particulier. Oui, Patricia pose une question. People of color, I often hear Native people identify as people of color. So, of course, that is eligible as well. Donc, les personnes de couleur, si vous vous considérez comme une personne de couleur en tant qu'autochtone, c'est tout à fait admissible. All right.
So with these grants, there are, whoa, go back. There are 4 types of funding that are available for folks, which makes it different than the other granting programs that we have. So for these 4 different things, we have create, share, learn, and then we have a special one, which is a visual arts materials micro grant. Now we can skip forward. Or do we want to skip forward? Eliane, which would you prefer? Okay. I don't know what that meant.
Oh, go back. I'll say that quickly.
Okay.
You don't read sign language?
I don't, I'm sorry.
Le programme des subventions aux arts autochtones a 4 volets pour soutenir la création artistique. Donc, il y a le volet créer, il y a le volet partager, il y a le volet apprendre et on a des micro-subventions pour des matériaux en art visuel aussi. OK, Shannon.
Just so eager to keep going. So some examples of funded projects, which I love to be able to share. So for a Create grant, some examples could be like writing and illustrating a children's book about growing up as a Mi'kmaq person. Richard Pelessier Lush did that a couple of years ago. I believe the name of the book is called A Creator's Plan, I believe. Creating a collection of wearable Inuit textile art. I believe that was oh no, Jolene that did that did that. Participating in a visual arts exhibition, Patricia has done that. I think Melissa has done that. There are probably others, but I am blanking. Facilitating a beading circle with youth and elders.
Morgan Veris did that. I didn't put
Morgan?
people's names because we've had people do more than
Yes.
more than one person doing these things. But yeah, Morgan Veris has done beading circles like that.
Yeah. Organizing an event to launch a new album or book. There's a variety of people who have done that kind of activity. Learn a mentorship with an elder to learn new skills or strengthen existing skills in beadwork, quillwork, basket making, etc. I know of a few different mentorships that we have done that way. Giving workshops to youth to transfer cultural knowledge. Again, we've done quite a few of those. So these are just some examples of the kind of projects that these grants have funded in the past and would likely continue to fund moving forward.
Donc, rapidement, des exemples de projets qu'on a financés à travers le programme des subventions aux arts autochtones jusqu'à maintenant. Dans le volet créé, on a déjà soutenu l'écriture, l'illustration d'un livre pour enfants. On a aussi soutenu la création d'une collection de vêtements, d'œuvres textiles inuites qu'on peut porter. On a aussi soutenu la participation dans des expositions en art visuel, aussi des cercles de perlage avec des jeunes et des aînés. On a aussi organisé ou soutenu l'organisation de différents événements pour lancer des albums de musique ou des livres. Puis dans la composante apprendre, on a soutenu des mentorats entre un aîné avec une personne qui voulait apprendre soit le perlage, travailler avec les piquants de porc-épic ou la vannerie, faire des paniers. Puis un autre exemple de projet qu'on a soutenu, qu'on pourrait voir encore dans le futur, c'est donner des ateliers à des jeunes, à des enfants pour transférer le savoir culturel de la communauté. Shannon, back to you.
Okay, now we're going to talk about the Indigenous Art Bank Acquisition Program. So this program was established to celebrate and highlight the artistic accomplishments of the Mi'kmaq people. The artworks in the collection represent the artistic diversity of Epekwitk visual artists and are acquired through purchase. The program raises awareness of island artists and their works and stimulates interest in visual arts and fine crafts. And we have some very beautiful pieces in the collection. Oh, you're still muted.
Thank you. Donc, le programme d'œuvres d'art autochtones, c'est un programme d'acquisition pour faire l'achat d'œuvres d'art créées par des artisans, des artistes Mi'kmaq. Et c'est vraiment une collection qui nous permet, encore une fois, de célébrer, de souligner les accomplissements artistiques des membres de la communauté Mi'kmaq et d'autres personnes autochtones vivant à l'île. Et le programme aide à sensibiliser les gens par rapport aux artistes qui travaillent ici à Epekwitk et par rapport à leur travail aussi.
So again, if you are a professional artist who is First Nations, Inuit, Métis, and you are living on the island and have been for the last 12 months, then you would be invited to apply with your artwork to be considered for acquisition by the program. The question is often like, what does professional mean? So professional means different things to different people. So we tried to kind of break it down a little bit here. So maybe you have specialized training in your artistic field, but specialized training doesn't mean that you went to school. It doesn't mean that you went to NESCAD. It doesn't mean that you went to like OCAD or whatever. It doesn't have to be academic. It could very much be the training that you received within community that has been passed down from generation to generation. Very important. Very important. Are you recognized by your artistic peers as an artist? that is a key part of whether or not you would be considered a professional. Do you have a history of public presentation? Has your art been part of exhibitions? And if you have the opportunity, are you committed to devoting more time to your artistic practice? Like in a perfect world, would you be an artist? Like, would you be a full-time artist if that was something that was available to you? Because we recognize the realities that most people who are practicing artists are doing more than just their artistic practice, because that just is the reality of the world we live in. But in a perfect world, would you be doing only your art if that was something that you could do? Those are some of the things that the peer assessment committee is going to look at when they are looking through your CV to try and figure out if you are a professional artist. I'll stop there.
Merci Shannon. Donc, qu'est-ce que ça veut dire être admissible au programme de l'acquisition d'œuvres d'art autochtones? Donc, si vous êtes un artiste professionnel des Premières Nations, Inuit, Métis, et que vous avez une pratique en art visuel ou en métier d'art et que vous habitez ici à Epekwitk depuis au moins 12 mois, vous êtes admissible. Qu'est-ce que ça veut dire être un artiste professionnel? Donc, c'est un gros mot, mais dans le cadre de ce programme-ci, professionnel veut dire que vous avez des connaissances, des habiletés dans une discipline artistique, mais ça n'a pas besoin d'être académique. Vous n'avez pas besoin d'être allé à l'école pour apprendre cette pratique-là. Ça peut être des connaissances que vous avez acquis de membres de la communauté qui vous ont été passées, transférées. Aussi, d'autres artistes vous reconnaissent comme étant artiste, donc ça, c'est important aussi pour déterminer si vous êtes admissible. Aussi, si vous avez un historique de présenter votre travail, donc si vous êtes un artiste en art visuel, est-ce que vous avez eu la chance d'exposer dans une galerie ou dans un espace public? Une autre chose qu'on regarde, c'est si vous aviez la capacité de le faire, est-ce que vous seriez artiste visuel à temps plein? Est-ce que vous consacriez plus de temps à votre pratique artistique si c'était possible pour vous? Donc, ça, c'est des choses qu'on regarde pour l'admissibilité de ce programme-là pour l'achat d'œuvres d'art. All right, back to you, Shannon.
So you could submit 2 different completed artworks. We can't accept any works in progress. They have to be finished and completed artworks, but you can submit 2 of them to be considered. If you are submitting 2 pieces, they should be submitted separately, not together. If the work that you are submitting is part of a series of artworks, the total number in the series should not be more than 10. The work that you are submitting should have been completed in the last 2 years, and any artworks should be framed and or ready to be displayed at the time that you are submitting your application. You're going to, as part of the application, you're going to actually show like the frame, like what it looks like, how it's going to be displayed, that whole thing. Works have to be like in the best possible physical state of preservation. Like these are pieces that are going out into the public, so they need to be very, is sturdy the right word? They need to be able to be around the public, basically. Any pieces that are incredibly fragile or that are going to need ongoing like conservation work or just special attention are probably not going to be purchased, but not necessarily, because we don't make the decisions. The peer assessment committee is going to make the decision, and maybe they'll decide they want it, but who knows? And incomplete works won't be considered. Whatever works you are submitting need to be works that are done and ready to be purchased. Stop.
Merci, Shannon. Donc, d'autres critères d'admissibilité pour le programme d'acquisition d'œuvres d'art autochtones. Vous pouvez soumettre un maximum de 2 œuvres pour considération. Donc, 2 œuvres séparées doivent être soumises séparément avec un formulaire pour chaque œuvre d'art. Si votre œuvre est un diptyque, un triptyque, ou si c'est une œuvre qui a plus d'un morceau, ça ne peut pas être plus que 10 pièces au total. Aussi, votre travail, votre œuvre artistique doit avoir été réalisée dans les 2 dernières années. Donc, pas plus que 2024. On regarderait pas plus tard que ça. Si c'est une œuvre en 2 dimensions, une peinture, une photographie, tout ça, il faut que ça soit encadré et prêt à être exposé. Si c'est un panier, ça ne s'applique pas évidemment parce qu'un panier, on peut le mettre un peu n'importe où, là, de la vannerie. Donc, ne vous inquiétez pas pour ça, mais dans la demande, il faut inclure une photo de votre œuvre. Donc, vous allez pouvoir spécifier comment l'œuvre est présentée au public. Les œuvres doivent être aussi dans le meilleur état possible. Normalement, on ne fait pas l'acquisition d'œuvres qui sont fragiles parce que c'est une collection publique qu'on présente dans différents espaces. Donc, il faut que l'œuvre puisse résister là, à différentes conditions. Et on ne fait pas l'achat d'œuvres qui n'ont pas été terminées. Donc, il faut que l'œuvre que vous présentez soit finale, prête à être exposée. Shannon.
We have some examples of pieces that have been previously purchased. So we have Quiver by Nora Richard. I am going to mispronounce that piece by Melissa. I'm scared to say it. I'm going to say it wrong. Epekwitk.
Epekwitk. Not sure either.
I know that it's beautiful and I love it. Steer by Patricia Bourque and Spirit, Strength, Soul by Annie Martin. So these pieces have been purchased over the last few years and are currently on display throughout the province. So these are just a few examples of pieces that have been purchased, just to give you an idea.
C'est juste un peu d'inspiration. On voulait vous montrer quelques œuvres qui ont déjà été acquises par la collection. Donc, ça, c'est des exemples. Alors, vous voyez que c'est très varié. Il y a de la vannerie, il y a de quill work, donc un travail avec les piquants de Epekwitk de Melissa. Il y a de la photographie de Patricia Bourque et il y a aussi une œuvre en bois pyrographée de Annie Martin. Donc, juste pour vous donner des idées de choses qui ont été achetées. Et puis, ces œuvres d'art-là sont exposées dans différents endroits publics à travers l'île.
Okay, so what do you need to include in an application? So you're going to want to include your project description and the details on how the project is going to be carried out. We have a template that you can use if that is helpful to you. Strongly recommend using it, especially with your first time applying, because I think it does make things a little bit easier. A detailed budget that shows your income and your expenses. With that budget, strongly recommend providing as much detail as possible. It's a spreadsheet, so you can add in line items as you need. You can label things however you need to label them. You want to be able to make those dollars make sense to the people who are reviewing your application. Because usually when it comes to the budget, that is a place where people often have a lot of questions. An artist CV, again, we have a very handy info sheet that just tells you how to kind of build that out. And for anybody who's unfamiliar with an artist CV, it's kind of like a resume, but it's not a resume. So it is something that is very much focused solely on your artistic accomplishments, only around your artistic practice. It doesn't have anything to do with anything that you do outside of your artistic practice. We don't need to know about any other day jobs or anything like that. If you are also working at Home Depot, we don't need to know. We only want to know about your artistic practice. So where have you, where have you trained? Where have you exhibited? Who have you learned from? That sort of information. And then also, including for your application, any support materials you might want to include that might like highlight, recent artistic achievements, letters of support. If you are looking for support to attend, participate in a program, include that acceptance letter so that we know that you are actually going into that program, kind of thing. And then if you are submitting work to the Indigenous Art Bank, you will be including photos of that work, both front and back, or whatever it is, depending on what kind of work it is. You want to see like all angles of the work so that we know what it is, so that we'll know how it needs to be displayed if it's purchased.
I'm going to add one thing. New this year, we are accepting video files of your work. So if it is a basket, if it's a 3D work and you want us to see all angles, you can upload a video. So that gives us a better view.
Yes.
I guess I'll do the French
I was
now.
actually done.
Okay. Donc, qu'est-ce que vous devez inclure dans votre application, dans votre demande? Donc, il y a une description de projet. Ça, c'est pour les subventions aux arts. On a un gabarit, un template que vous pouvez utiliser si ça vous aide. Vous n'êtes pas obligé, mais il est là pour vous. Aussi, on a besoin d'un budget. Ça encore, c'est pour les subventions aux arts. Donc, un budget de vos dépenses et de vos revenus détaillé. Donc, on veut savoir qu'est-ce que vous avez besoin comme sous, pourquoi, et puis comment, si vous avez d'autres sources de revenus, des fois, il y a des gens qui font un don, des fois, vous pouvez aller avoir une subvention d'un autre organisme, des fois, il y a une contribution personnelle, des choses comme ça. Ensuite, vous devez aussi inclure un CV d'artiste. Un CV d'artiste, c'est pas votre CV de tous les jours que vous utilisez là, pour appliquer pour des emplois. C'est vraiment un résumé de ce que vous avez fait déjà en tant qu'artiste. Est-ce que vous avez exposé des choses? Est-ce que vous avez participé à un spectacle? Est-ce que vous avez eu du mentorat d'un aîné ou est-ce que vous avez étudié ou fait des formations, des ateliers, etc., etc. Du support matériel, donc ça, ça peut être des lettres de soutien, ça peut être des exemples de votre travail. Donc, mettez des photos si vous êtes artiste visuel. Si vous êtes musicien, mettez de la musique. Si vous êtes écrivain, mettez des exemples de ce que vous avez écrit. Puis, si c'est pour le programme de la banque d'œuvres d'art, on va vous demander d'inclure des photos de l'œuvre d'art que vous allez soumettre au programme, l'avant, l'arrière, mais vous pouvez aussi inclure une vidéo. Si vous voulez que ça soit 3D, c'est possible d'inclure une vidéo. OK, back to you, Shannon.
Just jumping back in for a second, because Éliane touched on something that I normally talk about but didn't. Make sure you include examples of your work, either samples of what it is you're going to create or past examples of work you have created. So if you are a musician, include links to your music. If you are a writer, include samples of your writing. If you are a visual artist, include photos of your previous work or sketches of the work that you're planning on working on, work that you're planning on creating. You really want to give the peer assessment committee the tools to really see like what it is you've done. Like, it is a very small community, but don't assume that they are familiar with you, your process, the work that you're going to create, or what you are capable of doing, because people don't know. We contain multitudes, right? So give the people what they need so that they can look at your application and really understand who you are and what it is you plan on doing. Now I'm done. All right. How are your applications evaluated? So we've touched on this a couple of times. It is a peer assessment committee. Éliane and I, We don't make any decisions. We have no power here. Patricia, she does not make decisions. She has no power here. Well, she has more power than we do, but we are not part of the decision-making process. It is a peer assessment committee. It is based on a model that is set out by the Canada Council of the Arts. So it's a peer assessment model. It is a group of Indigenous arts and culture community members, so artists, cultural carriers, knowledge keepers, collectors, curators, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They come together. Usually they're from the island. Sometimes they are from the Maritimes in general. Really, it just depends on who is available and who has applied. Because if everybody's applying for the grants, then we can't use people that are here. We have to go off island. So anyway, they get together, they evaluate all of the applications, and they make their recommendations for the projects that they feel should be funded. That's kind of the long and short of it. Results you'll typically get between 6 to 8 weeks of the grant deadline. But I think the most important thing to understand is that this is a very community-driven thing. It is community members who are reviewing your applications. So you really want to speak to them so that they understand what it is that you are trying to do, so that they can evaluate the project and hopefully support you the way you need to be supported.
Donc, comment le processus d'évaluation fonctionne? On en a parlé un petit peu tout à l'heure. En gros, c'est un processus d'évaluation par les pairs. Donc, on se base sur le modèle du Conseil des arts du Canada. Et les gens qui font partie du comité d'évaluation par les pairs, sont des membres de la communauté autochtone d'Epekwitk. Parfois, on doit sortir d'Epekwitk, on va plus large à Mi'kmaq, on va chercher des membres d'autres communautés, mais qui sont artistes aussi. Ça peut être des artistes, mais ça peut être aussi des travailleurs culturels, des gens qui ont des connaissances, des aînés, ça peut être des commissaires, des gens qui collectionnent les œuvres d'art. Donc, tous ces gens-là, mais qui sont de la communauté autochtone, vont évaluer vos demandes. Donc, c'est super important de mettre le plus de détails possible, le plus d'informations sur votre projet pour qu'ils puissent comprendre ce que vous souhaitez faire et bien évaluer votre projet. Et normalement, les réponses, on donne des résultats à tout le monde et on envoie les résultats par courriel entre 6 à 8 semaines après la date limite. Mais on essaie toujours de faire le plus vite possible, mais ça dépend du comité et de la rapidité à laquelle on est capable de faire le processus d'évaluation. Mais ce qui est vraiment important, dans le fond, de se rappeler, c'est que c'est un processus qui est axé vraiment vers la communauté et qui se fait pour et par la communauté. Shannon, back to you.
So the application deadline for both programs is February 17th, which I'm sorry to say is in like 2.5 weeks, because time keeps moving on. So February 17th at 4 p.m. 4 p.m. Not 5, 4. Atlantic time.
Donc, une date très importante, la date limite pour les deux programmes est le 17 février à 4 heures, heure de l'Atlantique. Donc, c'est à peu près dans 2 semaines et demie, 3 semaines, ça s'en vient. Puis, c'est important de soumettre votre demande avant la date limite parce qu'on n'accepte pas les demandes en retard. Le formulaire de demande est en ligne, donc tout se fait en ligne. Alors, une fois qu'il est 4 heures, ça ferme et puis nous, on n'a plus accès au système. Alors, c'est pour ça qu'on demande de respecter la date limite le plus possible. On comprend que des fois, c'est pas possible. Shannon?
The only other thing I was going to say, you don't have to wait until 3:55 p.m. on February 17th to submit that application. In fact, we would really recommend that you don't. Get those applications in as soon as possible. Like whenever you are ready to get that application in, you don't have to wait until the deadline. Submit them early, submit them often. Don't wait. Technology has a way of not always cooperating. And we have often seen that on the last day, near the 4 p.m. deadline, bad things happen with technology and people get incredibly frustrated. So if there is a way for you to get your applications in earlier, I would highly recommend doing that.
On veut juste mentionner de ne pas attendre à la dernière minute. Si vous êtes capable de soumettre la demande avant la date limite, c'est très encouragé parce que la technologie, ça fonctionne, c'est notre ami jusqu'à temps que ça ne fonctionne pas. Et puis que là, on ne soit pas capable de trouver le problème. Donc, on vous encourage fortement, fortement à vous aider vous-même et pas trop stresser à la dernière minute puis soumettre la demande avant. Une autre chose que je voulais mentionner, Shannon pourra le dire en anglais, si jamais vous n'avez pas la subvention, si jamais votre projet n'est pas sélectionné, si jamais votre œuvre d'art n'est pas sélectionnée, ne vous découragez pas. Demandez-nous du feedback, demandez-nous de la rétroaction. On peut vous en donner. Ça nous fait plaisir d'en donner. Et puis, vous pouvez réappliquer l'année prochaine. Ça ne veut pas dire que si vous ne l'avez pas la première fois, que vous ne l'aurez jamais. Les comités changent d'année en année, sont toujours différents. On ne sait jamais ce qu'ils vont choisir, ce qu'ils vont décider comme projet. Donc, ça, c'est un conseil que je vais vous donner, un conseil d'amis. Ne vous découragez pas. Demandez-nous pour du feedback, puis réappliquez. Shannon, you got that?
I did. So as Éliane was just saying, if you do apply and you don't receive funding or your piece is not purchased for the art bank, please don't be discouraged. It is a highly competitive process, which sounds terrible, but it is. But also, we would really love it if you were to ask for feedback. What happens in those rooms is there's a lot of discussion that takes place, and oftentimes we are then able to share that information with you. So reasons why your project maybe wasn't selected, or reasons why your piece of art wasn't able to be purchased at that time. It doesn't mean that it wasn't a worthwhile project or a beautiful piece of art. It just means that they weren't able to support it at that time. But we can often provide you with whatever information is shared around the reviewing of that application to help you make, another application, because we're going to want you to, apply again if it makes sense. Another thing to realize is that we have another arts grants program, which you can also apply to, that opens up basically as soon as you get the results of this one. The other one will be right around that time, will be opening. So if you aren't successful in receiving funding through this process, the next one will be opening up around that time. So you can take the feedback that you get from this process and apply in April and have another chance to receive funding or to have your artwork purchased through the art bank. So this is not your only opportunity. This is just your first opportunity of the year. So if you are not successful with this round, please reach out to us and ask why. Ask for some feedback. We would love to have a conversation with you. And if it's not us, ask Patricia. Patricia can be an intermediary if you're more comfortable with that, just to put Patricia on the spot and offer her up that way. And also, as you are working on these applications, if you're unclear about whether or not your project is actually eligible, that's what we're all here for. Reach out to Patricia, reach out to one of us. Our contact information is on the next slide. We're happy to have those conversations with you and help guide you and, just help. We're here to help, basically. I'll leave it there. See, there we are.
Fait que voilà, n'hésitez pas à nous contacter si vous avez des questions en cours de route, vous préparez votre demande, mais vous n'êtes pas sûr si vous devriez inclure ci, ça, ou vous voulez un second opinion. Vous pouvez nous le demander à Patricia. On travaille avec Patricia dans le cadre de ces programmes-là. Elle offre du soutien aux personnes qui souhaitent présenter des demandes. Donc, n'hésitez surtout pas. On est là pour vous aider. Ça nous fait plaisir de vous soutenir dans votre processus créatif. So thank you, everyone. I think that wraps up our presentation. Does anyone have any questions for us